Good morning. Good morning, SBTV. How is everybody? Good to see you all coming in. Good morning. Good morning. Duncan's making more coffee, and he'll be with us later. So I just wanted to say good morning to everyone. Hey, Clearwater Chad. Hey, buddy. We had a great stream last night with Steve-O and all of all of Chad's whole menagerie. He's got all of these stuffed animals that he likes to have in front of him, and one of them is his mini Chad, and all the plushies that John Staus, I call him John Scooby Dooski, sent him, and so we had Steve-O and Chad and all those guys, and then we had little Steve-O. He's going out in the mail tomorrow this morning. Well, this afternoon. As soon as I'm done here, I'm gonna put him on the stagecoach. Just kidding, but it almost is like that. So hey, Chad. Hey, Peggy. Good to see you, honey. Hey, everybody. Evelyn, sorry I can't be here when Marilyn comes on. Oh, that's okay, honey. I have an interview with a vampire. Blood work. My daughter Haley is a vampire. She's a phlebotomist, and honestly, she's the only one that doesn't put bruises on me. So I'm due for a visit to the vampire too. All that darn reality, right? From a poet. Hey, poet. Good morning. Great to see you. You guys are up early. You're troopers. Michelle R. Hey, Michelle. Good morning, all. Just waking up, slept lightly, figured I'd get out of bed and start work early. Can't just lay there looking at my phone and can't go back to sleep. Yep. I totally can relate to that. Misbehaving. Hey, I love your name. That is awesome. I'm not that creative. That's that's great. Yay. Yay. Good to see you. Hey, Juliana. Good to see you, sweetie. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Clearwater Cheryl. Love ya. Blowing kisses at everybody. I'm just so excited to see you guys. This is great. I've been up a while. Yeah, everybody great. I love when people greet everybody. It's great. Michelle are going for nerve testing today. Hopefully, we'll get these hands back in knitting condition. Yes. Yes, sending all the good vibes. Good luck. Good luck. Definitely. Yeah, I hope it goes well. Absolutely. So, Duncan will be joining us in a little while. He's got some thoughts. I'm not sure if he wrote them down, but we've been watching some replays. Some this morning, some things we had seen we want to see again, just to kind of refresh our memory and jar some input and some things to just thoughts to share with you all and to get your input as well. So, you know, we're just amazed at all the happenings in the cultiverse, right? The world of Scientology and even beyond. I've got some things, um, some plates spinning about some stuff we're gonna be doing coming up, and some things I can definitely share with you. Tomorrow, I have Peggy, who was in the chat earlier. Peggy brought. She's a researcher for That's So Effed Up. I think it's probably too early to swear right now. That's So Effed Up podcast, and she does research for Ashley of that podcast, and she's just so knowledgeable. And we're going to be talking about the title is "Growing Up in the Cultiverse," and Cultiverse. And if you look at the thumbnail for tomorrow, it's tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. And we will be exploring just the different types of tactics and things that cults use to indoctrinate children, unfortunately, and some responses, trauma responses, and different responses that children have, and some from my own experience. And Peggy, being such an amazing researcher, she has a lot of input and a lot of case studies and interviews that she's been involved in. So we're going to explore that. I think it's very, very important to talk about the effects on children. So, ooh. Yay! Hello, honey. Just popping in before I head to the dentist. Sorry I have to miss it. That's okay, sweetie. We'll definitely see you tomorrow. And yeah, if you feel like catching the replay, it's totally up to you. Thanks. Thanks so much, Penny. And if you're friends on Facebook with Penny 5A, it's called, she's got some great footage of some interviews and some different things that she's putting on her Facebook page. Morning number 5. Yeah, she's got 2 profiles. One is Penny 5A with a penny, on it, a coin. Yay, Penny. Oh my god, Miss B, I didn't catch your name till Marilyn said it out loud. Miss B Haven. Yeah, that's so clever. I love it. There's another one that popped up recently. I can't remember it's a I'll think of it. Some things just kinda come and go out of my head. Yeah, so it just kinda flies in, flies out. Not much not much space in there, just kind of goes in like the wind. Hey, poet. Good morning, welcome. I'm just waiting for my second cup of coffee. Duncan said he'd put on some coffee, and he's gonna be joining us for anyone that hasn't heard. And, so I'm all alone, except I have Mini Steve-O to keep me company for now. He's gonna be going out in the mail soon, but I'll miss him. He looks really pale on here, but he's actually peachy color. So that was fun to do, and so I'm just waiting for everyone to come in, and yeah, we were watching a bunch of things this morning, or rewatched the CNN interview with Mike and Leah, and I thought that was amazing because, whether, whatever you think about the politics, I don't like to get into politics, CNN, whether you like the channel or not, it is a major, news outlet, and they took a good 15 minutes or so. And then, last night with Aaron and Joe Reich, who was the stepfather of the Mastersons, he was on with Chris Como, and again, whether you agree with him or not, it's getting the word out, and it is a cable news station, News Nation, yeah. So, oh, thank you, Cheryl. I love your body thetans. Oh my god, I know that sounded wrong, didn't it? I love your body thetans, but yeah, Ned and his wife. I love all the creativity and seeing everybody's, products that they push out, and not only crochet, just the knitting and there's all kinds of stuff. I love, like, resin pouring and cross stitch. I like anything with, like, a small needle. I mean, I use a yarn needle, but I can't sew with beans. So oh, this is interesting. Claire was on Myth Vision yesterday. Thanks for letting me know, Paul. I would totally watch that. Yeah. I've got a little, thing to say about Myth Vision. So, I found Myth Vision, Derek Lambert, his name is, through, just following Mike kinda everywhere and anywhere, and he's done a few videos, with Derek, from Myth Vision, and I've also seen Derek on a couple other, channels that I watch, Cults to Consciousness um, and Andrew Gold, and He was hilarious on Calls to Consciousness. He was speaking in because he's an ex-Pentecostal like me, and I can relate so much to the language and his style, and oh my god, yeah. And he totally gonna be a preacher because the way he, um, way he expresses himself. But he was doing these tongues like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh my god, this is bringing back memories," you know? And I love watching him. I love watching his stuff. The only thing is I have to take it, um with in doses as far as watching his channel, Myth Vision, because he delves into a lot of the doctrine and he has even like apologists on, theologians, and sometimes the language can be a little bit triggering for me. So I have to take it in a little, grain of salt. No, just little bits, like I said. Yeah. So the Scientology world, while it's very similar, a lot of things that I went through, I can relate to with the ex-Scientologist, although, Scientology is way is in a bad class, by itself. But yeah, it's like their language doesn't really trigger me, and I've gotten to, just had so many great relationships in this community, so, um from a poet. I like his content. You can tell he was put yes. Yes, I mean, he shares that he's had some, substance abuse problems, and yeah, he has gone through so much, and, mm, the just the I don't know if it's too early to say mind fuck, but yeah, just the mind control that Pentecostalism can, inflict on people, and the mystical funny calls it myth vision. The, the just the the, uh, emphasis on prophetic gifts and, the anointings and all that, it makes it a lot really like foo-foo new kinda way out there and kinda anything goes and really manipulates your emotions. So, yeah, I could totally relate to a lot of his experiences and what he says. They are discussing the Danny Masterson's sentencing. Yeah, everybody is. It is a big deal. Absolutely. I'll have to definitely wanna watch that replay, totally. And I like to hear all the different input from the different channels and how they, see things going down because I learned so much from so many different angles and perspectives. I love it. Selma Van Sel I'm terrible. I don't wanna butcher your name, Selma. Hi, guys. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Morning. Liz Gale. Hi, sweetie. Good morning. You're up early. You are a trooper. Juliana, it makes sense that the language of your abuse would be triggering. It's important to recognize and respect our boundaries. Yes, it is. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I do like Derek Lambert and Myth Vision a lot. I just have to pick and choose what live streams and broadcasts. Usually his pre-recorded videos, I I really get a lot out of, but some of his live streams with the theologians and the apologists, I gotta tread lightly on those. You know, everyone's saying hi to Liz. You're a rock star, Liz. Good to see you. Cat Jack, good morning. Good morning, Liz. Good morning, Marilyn. Hey, Cat Jack. Great to see you. Liz, Gail. I love that. I love that. So, Duncan will be with us shortly. He's got some thoughts to share. So I thought that'd be great to have him on. Everyone likes him better, anyways. He's super smart. And we've been watching replays of some of the interviews, like I said. And he's got some thoughts, and we'd like to hear your input as well of what's going on. Oh my goodness, you guys coordinate. You guys are gonna make me cry. Both Liz's. Oh my god, I really am tearing up. Yeah, you girls are ladies are a sight for sore eyes. Mm. Liz team is in the house. Yeah. Oh my god. Hello. This is great. Jeez, if I knew you 2 would be up so early, I woulda sent you a link. You coulda hopped on. I don't know if my hubby is listening or not, but, he went to make coffee about 20 minutes ago. Maybe that's the slow pour. My favorite thing about when the lights go well, nothing's great about when the lights go out, but our power goes out a lot, and, I love, we call it camp coffee. We've got a gas stove that you can kinda light the pilot and the burner, independently. Kinda have to have that in the boonies, because the lights go out a lot. I actually did one once right in the middle of the stream, but he calls it camp coffee, and it's one of those old percolators that you put on the fire. So, maybe he's doing that, I don't know. He went back to bed. No, he's an early bird, and he usually goes all morning, but he wanted to come on, so we'll see what happens. You shall see. Yeah, no, he'll come in. Wow, the gang's all here. Yes. Great to see everybody. Yeah, so uh Liz and Liz, they both have new channels and they're killing it, both of them. So proud of I'm so proud of the Liz's. I really am. Liz's quizzes and I love Nora and Liz Ferris too, their dictastic duo. Liz Ferris, I can't compete with that, but when we do lives together, I was trying to think of some catchy thing, like kind of play on the dictastic. Maybe we can do cultastic convos. Cultastic convos. What about that? What do you think about that? Thanks, Marilyn. You're the best. No, you are, Liz. I love you too. Oh, everything you 2 have gone through and all the second gens, you're always on my heart, really. I really mean that, and, I've been, thinking about some things. Usually, my streams, especially the ones that are, um, just me, uh, really are birthed out of just things I think about and, talk to different people about, and tomorrow, I have my friend Peggy Brott, who is, she's one of the mods on Triple C on FB, and she's a researcher for That's So Fucked Up podcast with Ashley Richards, and she just has a wealth of knowledge, and she's so compassionate, and she's studying to be a social worker, and has such a heart for children and second gens, and even though she wasn't, she's not a cult survivor herself, in a way she is. A, a lot of people I know even though they weren't in a quote full blown cult, have that background and that understanding. And she has her own experiences. But we're 11 o'clock tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. We're doing a stream called "Growing Up in the Cultiverse," and if you look at the thumbnail, I have so many different little symbols, um, JW, Children of God, all kinds of different cults and the symbols around it. But I've been just thinking about things that I accepted as a child as fact, as a way of life, and as just part of, you know, um, my growing up that was so messed up. But because when you're a child, you're looking to your parents and your teachers and your religious leaders for guidance, and you tend to just accept things because that's all you know. And that's just such a terrible and destructive foundation. But as you get older and you start to, and even when you're young, I think you do have that internal thing like, this doesn't feel good, or this doesn't seem good, but you accept it. And you know, I I always have this book next to me, like as a reminder of where my family has come from. What we escaped from, and this is just one thing, and this is the most terrible book I've ever read. I got a copy of it not too long ago so I could look at it again. I burned my original copy, and this is the original cover. Now it's this cutesy cover with a little boy holding his parents' hands, looking so happy. It's all, you know, It's terrible, but I did do actually my first real video after my introduction. I did do a a live stream. No, it was I think it was a pre-recorded video. So it should be right on the homepage on the videos. But I did a book review and you can see all the tabs I have in here. And this book has been used to train million or whatever to abuse millions of children. So it's just awful. So I'm gonna catch up. I'm flying solo today because our lovely Penny had a dentist appointment. So I'll try to. And I see Duncan's waiting with coffee. Hi, sweetie.
Hello.
Come on in.
Hi, honey.
Hi.
You need coffee or did you bring some?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I've been waiting for coffee.
Oh, okay.
I had a cup
I
going,
failed to
but
grab some. I will
that's
go get
okay.
it and I will join the party.
All right. Thank you. You can put your coffee down.
Yep, the critters are all situated, so
All right. He's got the dogs all happy.
I will get this old coffee out of here.
Yeah, old coffee.
I'll bring in the new.
Thank you.
Rocky's
Exciting. I'm excited to watch that. Yeah, thanks, Liz. Yeah, I'd love to, keep the conversation going and do a stream with you. I've got, some questions and things I'd love to talk to you about. And we talked about maybe doing a Mama Bear stream. I would love that. Anything you want to talk about, I would be so happy. Sorry, I don't mean to be. I'm very distracted because I'm trying to I'm trying to start things and put things up and all that. I'm a terrible multitasker, I tell you. And then Duncan can come in and talk so I can click. Marilyn, I'm late. I was sleeping with Steve. Oh, that's okay. I understand. I understand the appeal. I've got a personal Steve-O right next to me here. And yeah, actually, I won't be sleeping with him because he's going off on the stagecoach. Well, not stagecoach, but I live in Foreverland, so he'll be going off in the mail to Colorado. I'll miss him. So sad, but he was really fun to make. Um, oh, there she is. Were your ears ringing, Peggy? I can't wait for our stream tomorrow. Yeah, this is Peggy, my friend. She is super smart. I believe in surrounding myself with super smart people. I'm hoping it'll rub off. I love you guys. Selma, what about cult crocheting? Yeah, I actually do some cult crocheting if you haven't noticed. I gotta work. I've got Z News I gotta finish. I'm doing well, of course, I'm always working on these because these are the most in demand. Is these Mike Render ones. Oh, sorry, he's a little crooked. All right, Mike. I'm so happy that Mike is back online. Yay. With Leah. And I'm working on some theta potatoes. I got to get going on those. I don't know if you've seen the theta potatoes, but those are really fun to make. Michelle R. I caught the lifeboat stream earlier. Yeah, that's another one. Talk about accepting some hard circumstances. Yeah, Tommy's been through so much, and I love that he's on with Aaron a lot, and that he went to the sentencing with Aaron. He got one of the last 3 seats or something like that, and he said he had the best seat in the house, like the line of vision. He said it was the clearest. So, yeah, so it was good, and he got a lot of subscribers that day. So good for him. Very happy for him. Have a good chat. Bye, Evelyn. Great to see you. In the book, they call it training. It is abuse. It is. It's overpowering a child, abusing them, and they basically talk about dominating them and breaking them. That was something in my cult that was supposedly so. And Duncan can speak to that. Being broken, being a broken vessel, being broken like a mule. It was supposed to be a positive thing. Here, let's scooch over, honey.
Hello. Okay, here
Hey.
I am.
Yeah, talking about this book.
Yeah.
I remember we had this stupid course we had to take. They had like a curriculum and a workshop just how to abuse your child. It was just yeah. But yeah, we were talking about being broken because it's got like a mule on it and stuff.
Yeah, I could talk about that whole subject. I try not to get. I'm still letting the coffee kick in. My brain
Oh,
isn't
thanks for the
quite up to
coffee, honey.
speed, but you're welcome. But anyway,
Oh,
yeah, that
I
whole
love this cup.
mentality, you know, it's sort of pervasive with certain religions and certain organizations, and it's sort of weird because a lot of these things have some good and some bad to them. Like in the military, they want to take you in. You're a young, cocky guy that's used to having his own way, and now they want to break you and make you into a soldier. So they've got to strip you of any basis of surviving independently of this entity and take a bunch of guys, throw them together, break them down, and then build them back up into one cohesive unit. So that sounds justifiable, and the whole idea of obedience and submitting to authority and taking orders is in a military situation maybe necessary and justifiable. But I admit I've always been a certain amount of a rebel, and I even consider this to be true when I analyze my philosophy today. Is the idea of completely relinquishing control over your life and handing that to somebody else. I find it abhorrent, and especially in a cult type of context, the idea of giving somebody else absolute control over you, like some of these cults that we've looked into. I mean, I don't know Scientology as well as I know, the version of Christianity we were in, and some other cults like Nexium and stuff like that, where literally the cult leader is wanting to gain complete control over you and get you to completely give over everything in your life to them, be willing to sacrifice yourself for their cause. And it scares the crap out of me because how do you get back control over your life once you've done that? And one thing, I was overhearing a little bit of this chat earlier, and the idea of trust kind of came to mind. Like, trust is a necessary factor of human nature. Like, society relies on trust, and it is a human trait. If you can't trust anybody, you can't have a relationship. You can't, like, society is built on trust, and when you lose trust, things crumble because nobody trusts anybody, and it becomes all about litigation and you know using the law against other people and everything, which is crazy. You have to have trust, but yet it can be so easily abused and taken advantage of. So somebody lures you in and says, "Well, do you trust me?" Well, and then they start testing. Well, how much do you trust me? Are you willing to do
Yeah.
this? Are you willing to do that? To
Yeah.
me, that's like the foundation of manipulation and control, and even gaslighting and stuff, like relying on somebody else. So my attitude is, don't let other people do your thinking for you. Analyze everything. You're responsible. You're the gatekeeper in your own life. So the idea you give control to somebody else or let them do your thinking for you, that's lazy.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you. So, you got to be super careful who you trust and who you put in control over your life. And we assume like little kids have to trust their parents. They don't have anybody else to turn to. They've got to. And then you come under like that terrible train up a child thing and listen to somebody that can put up a convincing argument why this is right, makes sense. So you're trusting them. But when I think in the end, you have to rely on your own gut instincts. And for me, they're generally pretty damn accurate. When you have a really uneasy feeling about something or a person, I mean, you know, I know I'm starting to ramble. This coffee's starting to really kick in, but I'll
It's
give
all
you
right.
a couple
You
little
usually hear
examples.
me. Usually hear me ramble.
Yeah, so I'll give you a break for a minute. But yeah, I was thinking, like, I do some real estate where I live, and I have had some really creepy situations happen where I just felt something was terribly wrong with a certain person I was dealing with, either a buyer or a seller. And like one time I had a seller that kind of seemed really cagey, and he wanted me to list a piece of property for him. And I just had that really deep feeling like something's not right here. I just don't feel right about this. And, I'd consult the people in the office. Our principal broker in the office was a very experienced woman that had been doing it she and her husband forever. So I trusted them. And I'm like, well, what do I do when I run into this? Well, just follow the normal procedures. They're sort of set up to screen and filter and catch things that aren't right. I said, okay. So I did that, got all the way up to the point of having this listing ready to go up. I had a sign up there, I had the property marked, I'd walked it, I knew everything about it. And still there was this nagging feeling of doubt. And I realized, like, nowadays, a lot of things are done electronically. So you e-sign documents. So I can put up, in fact, I've bought for people or sold property for people where I never met them in person, either buyer or seller. And it seems really weird, but you can do everything, online. So I had this listing ready to go up. I had an email for both the guy and his wife, but I had a funny feeling that doing it through e-signing, he gave me two emails, one for him and one for her. But I'm like, well, what's to stop him from signing on her side of this transaction as well as himself? How do I know? I haven't really been in contact. So I actually tracked her down. I did a little bit of PI stuff, figured out who she was, where she was, and I started reaching out to her like, hey, I just want to make sure that you're on board with this and verify your identity. Well, man, he bam retracted that listing agreement. Didn't give me any explanation. Just bam, slammed the door. I'm like, I was right. I think this guy was trying to sell this behind his wife's back and not have her ever know. I never heard from him again. So that was one case. And I've had a couple buyers that came in that were fraudulent in some way, or one guy just didn't know enough to know what he was doing, and he forced a transaction to go through that really shouldn't have, and it blew up.
Somebody has a question.
So, oh yeah.
Did you do a title search?
So I don't personally I can't do legal work as a realtor. I'm a marketing agent, but I will do everything I can in my power that's within what my license will allow me to do. So in Vermont, I know other states use title companies and all these sorts of things. They will, the lawyers will do the title searches in Vermont. And I mean, I will dig back and pull deeds and all of that, but I don't go far back in. I don't have the time to invest in doing that, especially some of these deals. I'll go back to get a proper, meets and bounds description for the property, but I can't do all the digging. But yet I will do enough to verify whether people exist or not, or if I can. And even you can still get scammed. But anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent, but it's just my point being, like, sometimes you got to run with your gut. Like, if you really feel like something's wrong, don't go along with it. Because a lot of these cult situations, people are forced to overcome the cognitive dissonance they experience when they just know something's wrong, but they don't know what to do with it. I mean, in Scientology, like all the latest stuff we've been talking about, with
Danny Masterson.
Danny Masterson, yeah, all of that stuff. I mean, we're seeing, Scientology is trying to suppress and shut down and make people obey rules they know are wrong. You have to know what's wrong to do this fair game thing. You have to. I mean, there's nobody that doesn't know that this stuff's wrong, and yet they're being pressured to just stuff the cognitive dissonance and just override it and keep on going doing what's wrong. I mean, all these people are aware at some level, but they push it down so that they're under more pressure from Scientology to suppress it than they are from their own conscience. So that really screws with people's heads.
Well, it's the end justifies the means, and the just the whole for the cause thing. Because we had that too, to a degree. I mean, not to the degree that Scientology takes it, but it was, I mean, we were isolated. We had to kind of like push our families away and just do sort of like a version of the fair weather thing. And we, I think even Duncan too, it got to the point where it was just so much work to even like go to a family event, because when you got back, you were interrogated, and they would sit at the lunch table right after like a 3-hour sermon that would have you feeling like you were going to hell. And they would just trash, like I would make all these casseroles and stuff. I was sort of like I don't know, like some people were like prophetesses or minstrel, which was like the singer. Duncan was like the maintenance guy. He kept the whole cult, going. And I was like the casserole maker. And if we weren't fasting, if we were allowed to eat, and crocheting and all that stuff, a floor washer, the ammonia. I mean, my hands are totally like spent because of the ammonia, but like, yeah, it was sort of like we were like worker bees, and we just, fulfilled our role. And this was 16 years of indoctrination where you just overrode, after a while, it's like you just, and this can be applied to abusive relationships and anything that has you, override your own thoughts, your own sense of being, your own will. Like, if you get into an MLM, you're like, ooh, this seems like I'm being sort of like a crook, or I'm pressuring people. Oh, no. And they just give you all this love bombing and all this stuff. You just have to
keep going. If you work the system, it'll work for you. I mean, I was in some things like that. And you just got to do it. Here's the formula. You just got to follow it. You got to stick with it. You got to keep obeying and da-da-da-da. And eventually it'll work for you. And they keep it's a carrot on a stick that just keeps moving out ahead of you. I don't care how fast you run or how steep a hill you climb, that carrot is maintaining its distance from you. And you'll never, only the people at the top of that pyramid ever really make any money. And even, a lot of them don't make a heck of a lot. So, but I'll throw this thought out before it gets away from me. But like when we were in the cult and we finally realized we crossed that line where we suddenly realized it was no longer something we could tolerate, and we're willing. And this is a strange thing that happens with a lot of things, relationships, cults, whatever, as you reach a certain threshold where you're like, you know what? I'm willing to pay the price and lose everything to get out of this because it's so bad.
Yeah.
And with a lot of things in life, like you won't risk blowing them up unless you feel you have nothing left to lose. You're willing to pay the price. You're willing to lose what you've got invested. And it's huge and painful. It's like writing off a gigantic loss, like giving up something that you put a ton of your life into, which we had. And then at one point we're realizing we're sitting there in the lunch table and we're listening to the gossip and it's going on and on and on. And now we're hearing this twisted stuff like, well, they wouldn't understand. We don't really want anyone coming in here that hasn't been pre-indoctrinated, because they're going to basically think we're crazy. They're going to come in here and be like, something's wrong. So in other words, they have to be numbed up, almost like you go to the dentist. Like, well, before we really start sticking some, getting in there with a scalpel or a pair of pliers, we got to numb these people up. We got to prep them. We got to tell them that, this is because we have the truth. We're the only ones that have the truth here. The rest of the world is carnal. They're deceived. They're bad. They're all going to hell. And our little, ark of whatever, you use all this religious terminology.
True church. And she had just like L. Ron Hubbard or any of them, she had stolen bits of, cherry picked bits of things from different religions, or not, different denominations of Christianity, right? The whole charismatic movement. That's where we came out of, different Assemblies of God churches. We've talked about Assemblies of God several times. And then the IBLP, the Duggar cult, she had gone to numerous Bill Gothard seminars back in the 70s and 80s. She was Marlene Sweeney. I like to say her name any chance I get. Marlene Sweeney went to those seminars, and she was like a self-appointed prophetess, a self-appointed Bible teacher. She used the whole umbrella authority, and it was like, don't question.
That was another thing. There were so many flags. Like by the time we left, it had become very obvious to us in a number of ways and reasons. But yeah, that was part of it, is like this authoritarian top-down idea. And the people at the top of the pyramid was the one that hearing from God and going up on the mountain. There's all kinds of these allusions to the Old Testament, because I often refer to what we went through as Old Testament reenactment. Like all of a sudden we're like the Jews wandering in the desert and wandering in the wilderness for another 400 years because we're not obedient to God. And that keeps you suppressed. Like if you're part of this group of people, so you're lumped in with a group of people that are all somehow falling short and are defective and don't get their hearts right, it's like all these impossibilities. Like I realize one of the demands of extreme Christianity is that you have to be totally perfect, and you have to, in order to be right before God, there can't be anything left in you that isn't. Therefore, you've got to navel gaze and hold up a big magnifying glass to yourself and your life. And as long as you still have anything impure about you, you really don't qualify. So you're trying to meet qualifications that no one can meet. And it's funny, I still hold to, because I grew up in it and I was really looking for the truth. It's like, there's a lot of things in Christianity and a lot of religions that actually are positive, in a sense of, there's a lot of, like say the Psalms and the Proverbs in the Bible and stuff like that. There's a lot of very sound advice. I mean, it's like, you can read things from Confucius or Lao Tzu or any of these guys, Buddha. There's a lot of religions that have brilliant minds and wisdom, and you can glean a lot of wisdom out of a lot of these things, but you also can fall under some deep, dark deceptions out of these things. And so the Bible is, like, to me, it's a huge conglomeration of things that were gathered together for over a long time span by a lot of different authors, and then filtered by a bunch of guys sitting around figuring out what to keep and what to throw away. Right. And then eventually somebody says, well, we're going to trust that this is somehow God's will and this is God's mind, and therefore everything that we decide is to fit in the Bible is now canonized as a thinking of God, and therefore we can finally say we've got it all figured out, because I feel like that's a sort of a weakness or sickness of man. So I feel like he's got to get it figured out, got to get it all down on paper. Like once I get this figured out and printed up the final copy, kind of like an L. Ron Hubbard thing. Well, this is the final word on the universe, life, the universe, and everything. Well, L. Ron Hubbard did that, and then of course there was a
Right.
typo and a T didn't get crossed. Well, guess what? We can make everyone buy $30,000 worth of new books if we just print them all over again and fix these typos. Ha! That's his angle. But I mean, the Bible. How many versions of the Bible are there out there? You Google Bible, you're going to come up with about 50 different translations. Every one of them with little subtle differences. And you know, the idea that one guy can say, well, this is the word of God and it's inerrant and nothing can be added or subtracted, and this is the 100% the mind of God. That gives you a great feeling of satisfaction. Like we've got it figured out finally. We've got this cast in bronze. Nobody can change it. We know exactly. We can just, our whole lives can be guided by this. But the deceptions, that's a form of extremism. And like when we were in the cult, it was almost like, the Bible's so big and complicated, and there's conflicts, and there's things from recently, things from 3,000-4,000 years ago in there. Well, so we played Bible roulette, or the Bible dartboard game. You randomly open the Bible to a certain page, and you take a dart and you throw it at the Bible.
Yeah.
Wherever it sticks, that's your word for the day. Remember that?
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was crazy. It was like they were always saying, especially Marlene Sweeney was saying, "Oh, I got a word from God," and it was literally like taking. Oh, it's the only book I have right now. Like taking a book and just be like, "Oh, must be God," and it would be like this terrible thing from Jeremiah or something.
Oh yeah, some horribly condemning thing.
You will be crying in the wilderness, and you'll be eaten by wild animals. And then she'd tell me that, and be like, and I always had this like, I don't know, like I don't want to call it guilty conscience, but just always, we're kind of in this sackcloth and ashes type thing. And she'd talk about us ending up on the dung heap, and it was just all this like, self annihilation and belly button, navel gazing, and just constantly like crying on our face before God. It was so damaging.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, I fell into that too, because you're trying to I did buy into the idea. And I remember going through this. It was painful because I was wanting to hear from God, and like other people were hearing from God. And if you're one of the elite and the upper class, the inner circle, all these kind of people, then you are hearing from God. And if you couldn't hear from God, it signified maybe you got some sin in your heart or some kind of garbage. So I was like the guy that would be like, well, I really do want to hear from God. And if he's out there, I'm going to hear from him. So my analogy for this would be like trying to dial in a radio signal that's really weak or hard to get in. So what you do is you dial up that high gain antenna as high as you can, so that any little thing out there you hear. So if somebody says something, or you have a random thought just pop into your head, all of a sudden you're like, well, maybe this is the word of God. But if it's crazy, like I think there's a lot of cult leaders, honestly, and crazy people that are using sort of an approach like that instead of deliberately thinking through something. Like now I have a totally different approach to life. Is you are in control, you can make decisions, but you need to gather the information to make the decision. You're supposed to think. God gave you a mind, not to just turn it off or hand it to somebody else to tell you what to do and micromanage you. Because to me, that's the wide open door to the cult. But it's like the opposite is this completely random, like looking for a sign, because that's the thing, looking for a sign, looking for some bit of information, and then just amplifying it to death. Somebody says some little casual word to you, or you happen to pop a book open and it to a certain thing, and you read it and you're all excited. Well, it might be just coincidentally you land on something good, but what if you open up to something and they will be thrown into the lake of fire? Well, shit, that's not the way I want to spend my day.
Thank you, Duncan. Free thinking. Hey, Tiff.
Yeah, I'm all about
these are my friends,
thinking.
Honey. Like all the names that you see here.
Yeah,
these are people that come in all the time. So this is Duncan. If you're just coming in.
Yeah, you caught me in
my
a
better
half.
No, I love when you're going.
Yeah, I don't know why I think that today. So
that's good.
Usually by 10 or 11 at night, like last night, I'm like, trying to squeeze out a few more thoughts or words because I'm tired. Morning's my time, but
I am my own God. Yeah. Well, honey, while you were thinking, I was thinking about this. You were saying, think random things, pop into your head or whatever. It was always put through this filter of, is the leadership or Marlene or whatever, in whatever case, whether they sign off on it. So if they didn't, if they thought that that was not, in consistent with what they wanted for you, then that was the devil, or that was, your own thoughts or your own sinful nature, or Joe Disciple would call it, her cult would call it ego. That's just your own ego. And ego is not a bad thing. Overinflated ego is, but there has to be some sense of self. There has to be some sense of autonomy and independence and free thinking. And the cults just erase that, and so do abusive relationships and anything that tries to override your own sovereignty.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, when people try to manipulate and control, it's like I've spent some time in sales over the years and being in the cult environment and MLM type of organizations. And when you're young, you fall under the spell. You don't know any better. The love bomb, all that stuff, it works because you're spending a lot of time in your emotions, so you're more easily swayed. You get older, you get a little more jaded. You're like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to fall for that. And at my age now, I'm like, yeah, I've seen enough to know.
yeah,
And I realize, yeah, your primary responsibility in life, in my opinion, is to learn, always be learning, always seek to understand things more and more. That's basically your armament, is like your ability to think things through and gather information, because otherwise you're trusting other people that necessarily can't be trusted in a lot of cases, like all these cult leader types. People want to control you. Like, I hate and I resist being controlled, because I just realized that's the stock and trade of every cult leader and manipulator, whatever. It's like, don't let anyone get you to agree to something that you haven't thought through and don't agree
absolutely.
to. Even sitting down and signing paperwork. I mean, I realize even like real estate closings or whatever, you're sitting down, there's a pile of paper you got to sign. You have to trust the people that are handing you that paper. That's why you hire a lawyer. You got a lawyer working on your behalf that knows what you're signing and what it means. That's your protection. So I know people that try to get around the system. I'm constantly getting requests from people that want to like dodge the system and do stuff without a lawyer. And I'm like, don't do that. You think it's smart. You're going to save a few bucks now, but what happens 10 years from now when you go to sell that property and there's a glitch in the title and you can't sell that? You're done. Then you've got to do a quick claim deed to some Joe Schmo you don't know and pass it along that way. But I mean, I've seen deals crash and burn because people trusted people that shouldn't have been trusted, or they just didn't want to, use a lawyer or whatever. So these people are there to protect you. Yeah, they're going to charge money. They're good at what they're doing. They deserve to make some money. But, if you're not an expert in a thing, you really ought to question whether you should be doing it,
Definitely. So I'm just starting some things. We can kind of go down. I've got some things start just all over the place, which is this is what we do, honey. So we get all kinds of thoughts and questions. How do we order your wares, Miss Behaven? You can email me at, let me see. Oh, here we go. Here it is. coffeecultsandcrafts@gmail.com. I do have quite a list going. I am back ordered, but I will try to fit you in and put you on the list.
Well, you're getting back up to speed. I've noticed for a while you were overwhelmed with both orders and other things going on. Like just getting into this whole streaming thing was like a huge learning curve. So for probably at least a month, we were like putting
and
a lot of time into
I miss the
figure
crocheting, and I've been trying to help Goldie a little bit at night because I'm up so late with some of the live streams. Just kind of, I'm usually just lurking. I'm not really chatting, but if there's something that comes up and I have a wrench, I can help her out. But even that, I keep it to a minimum because I want to be able to crochet at night because there's so much to do. But thank you for asking. So see how I unstar these as I go along. Just trying to show him.
Yeah, I'm still pretty ignorant. I'm kind of learning vicariously through Marilyn because I've been fairly busy with things. So I'm like learning little by little.
You don't sit still very much.
No, I'm a restless person.
Peggy, Mike is looking and sounding so great. I know, Mike Rinder.
Yeah, how about it? Yeah, he's come back a long way. He's got energy now. He's fired
I
right
can't
up
help
again.
but think, like, F you, Scientology. They were probably thinking, oh, he's down for the count. Good, we'll just what do they call that? Dead agent. A dead agent.
Yeah, don't count him out.
Yeah, dead agenting is like when they have a file on you and they're just like, oh, or they silence their critics. Nope, can't keep him down. I love it. Clearwater Cheryl, your zines are out of this world. Thank you.
Literally, right?
Yeah, the aliens.
Xeno's out of this world.
Oh, I put that one up again. I love that. Yes, he does. Clearwater Claire. Hi, Claire. Hello, everyone. Marilyn and Duncan. I was just catching up on Natalie Lawyer Chic and her analysis of 8 Passengers. Oh, God, that's another one. Cannot wait for her live with Aaron. Oh, I'll have to check her out. Lawyer. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Oh, Lawyer Chic. Wait, I think I've heard of that. Yeah, nice. Good. I'm glad they're doing a live stream. Yeah, we'll talk. I'm sure Peggy and I will talk about the 8 passenger thing tomorrow. It was a Mormon mommy kind of YouTube channel, and the mother has been indicted for child abuse. So
oh yeah, I heard a thing about that on one of your streams.
Yeah, it's sort of like kind of Duggar-esque in my understanding. Terrible. Carol Rousseau. Hello from Barnard, Vermont. Where's that?
I don't know, honestly.
That? Must be
further
northern.
north. Yeah.
Yeah, it must be. What do they call
Vermont's,
that? Northern Kingdom.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
It's long and tall, skinny. Like it goes from Massachusetts border, which is what we were right on the Massachusetts border, very close
all the way
to
to
New
Canada,
York.
so it's a long way.
All the way up to Canada. Yeah, probably like a half of the length of New York. And we go to New Hampshire a lot too. Choctaw Nation Princess. I love that name. I call her Princess.
Yeah, it's funny because I like it too. Well, you know what it reminds me of is Choctaw Hayride is a song by Allison Krauss in Union Station. I really like. It's like a kind of instrumental piece. So when I see Choctaw, I think of that.
You saw Allison Krauss and who else?
Robert Plant.
Robert Plant. Yeah.
A couple months ago at Tanglewood. So
yeah,
that was very cool.
Came to a venue close to us. Can you guys hear us okay? I'm trying to moving this back and forth as we're talking.
Okay, yeah, I'm assuming people can hear us.
Princess, I always research a church and the verses they list to support their beliefs. Oh, the verses, yeah. Fundamentals, etc. More times than not, the verses do not support their beliefs, never sign things that don't match up. Yeah, if you're talking about their like doctrines and scriptures and things, yeah, I totally agree with that. You can't. Yeah. A lot of times they'll like manipulate your emotions, they'll love bomb you, they'll have a sense of like credibility. Like I haven't added to it lately. I've been meaning to, but the Cult Leaders Toolbox videos that I do, just little short videos. I started with actually with I won't give away the cult leader because in case you haven't seen it, but establishing credibility. And a lot of times that's what they'll do. They'll try to fool you into thinking that what they're offering is reasonable, and they'll love bomb you, and they'll make you feel important. They'll make you feel like they have something that you need, that make you an offer you can't refuse kind of thing. So yeah, critical thinking is.
Well, you know what? Let me interject this idea. Like, I totally believe in critical thinking, and the scientific method sort of follows that track. Is if you can't, like, say, prove something or reproduce it in a laboratory, then you got to question it. Like, if somebody says, "Oh, we did this and we got this result," you're like, "Cool, tell me exactly what you did." And if I can't reproduce the same result, then it doesn't have credibility.
Right.
And there's all kinds of things in the scientific world that are constantly being shown to be potentially flawed, like perpetual motion machines and different things that can't work. And people will try to say they did work, and they will, like a magician, they'll create a result that you can't reproduce. So that's a thing. But another thing, I'm just going to throw this out there too, because Christianity, I mean, having grown up as a Christian, I still struggle with some of these deeper issues, because when I got into the whole religious thing, I wanted to know the truth, and I still do. So I haven't stopped looking. I want to still keep learning. I'm not going to ride on anyone's bandwagon blindly and not know what, and I haven't outright rejected everything either. You know what I mean? It's like, I want to know what the actual truth is, what's true and what isn't true. But one of the things that's required in almost any religion, including Christianity, that I stumble over is simply this idea. Well, people say, well, faith is the evidence of things not seen. which is
Yeah.
direct contradiction of the scientific method.
Right.
So now anyone that's got a scientific mind or an engineer is going to be tripping over that or just outright reject it. And I'm like, well, geez, if you can't prove something or you have to take it without basically on faith, to me means without evidence, then what do we do with that? Because cult leaders will trust, they want you to just blindly trust and obey them. And even Christianity, there's a song, Trust and Obey, that, looking back, we're like, this is just sheep grooming, because trust and obey, yeah, in a perfect world with a perfect benevolent God, that makes sense in a way. You know what I mean? It's like learning, like you should be able to trust your parents, but people say, well, trust and obey your parents. Well, they're human, they're imperfect. Okay. So if you happen to have good parents that really do love and care for you, then that can be a safe policy. But if you get out in the world and you try to apply trust and obey to a cult leader, you're done. You're a sheep. You're going to be used, abused, and discarded. And so the problem is, people that lack integrity are out there, and they're going to be the ones trying to dupe you and pull you in and love bomb you and do all this terrible stuff. That's what cults are. That's what cult leaders are. So if you apply critical thinking to that, you're going to analyze what these people are doing and saying. And, I mean, I trip over that idea. Like Jesus says, well, faith is the evidence of things not seen or whatever. It's like, well, geez. So you're asking me to trust you, but that's a big ask, because how do I know? So if you're supposed to step over the crevasse of your own ignorance to trust somebody, you better be damn sure of who you're trusting. And a lot of the things in the Bible, like there's all the miracles and signs and wonders and all kinds of stuff. Well, and honestly, I can say this has really ripped down the credibility of a lot of the church, is we grew up in a Christian type church and the whole Pentecostal movement. Well, people, I mean, I get it. People are zealous. They want the truth, but they also want the emotional high of it, because there is, a big group of people singing, it can create a beautiful sound. It's very emotionally uplifting. And there's this thing, actually, Mark Terry did a really good review of kind of an overview of a number of religions. And I got a lot out of that. I want to rewatch it because the guy's brilliant. He goes deep with things and he really studies them out.
Yeah, that was
And
this
that
past Saturday.
was, if you
The
haven't
Nerdy
seen
Bunch.
it,
Yeah,
pull up
Origins
the Nerdy
of
Bunch of this past Saturday. Listen to what he's telling you, because this applies. He's covered a lot of religion. I'm like, damn. But he said, I know you probably okay. I'll talk another second or so. But I was going to say, like, he mentioned a number of religions and how they work, and then he said something about like the social. I forget. He mentioned a book, which I think would actually probably be a good read about. The socialization aspect of religion. I'm like, yeah, that's huge, because I think it actually stabilizes a society a lot if people believe a body of, information or knowledge or whatever that causes them to want to work together to cooperate or whatever. Because I've seen it in the church. I mean, you get a bunch of guys, and I experienced this, like the church we were in down the road when we get out of the cult was kind of a mainstream type of church in a way. And we built this pavilion at one point, and we had a bunch of guys. And when you feel like you're doing something for God, you feel pretty good about it. And you're getting together with a bunch of guys to build something for the church and for God, you feel good about it. And there's a lot of camaraderie, and you working together, and, everybody's getting along, you have a common goal. So there's a socialization aspect to a lot of religion that's really powerful. And it's not a bad thing. It's probably one of the positives, because it's filling a social need that everybody has. So the reason things like love bombing work is we all want to be loved and appreciated and accepted and feel good and all this stuff. So you get a lot of that stuff in a lot of churches, and a lot of the even cults start out seeming pretty good because you have a lot of that. So you go there, you feel good, you make friends, da 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 da. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes necessarily, and you don't know what direction you're headed in. And if you get talked into like moving to some part of South Africa with the group to escape the world, then you got to start asking questions. But a lot of what goes on in churches is really fulfilling social and basic needs, and it answering questions. Like, we all have a lot of questions, and we want answers to them about God and the meaning of life and religion, all this sort of stuff. But I'll end with a little quote that I saw a couple weeks ago. I couldn't find it. It was like a little thing in Facebook floating around, but it said,
"You don't have to end, honey. We can go back and forth,
Oh,
You
sorry.
can say anything you want.
Okay, no, no, I know I'm on a bad run. I had like 3 cups of
Well,
coffee,
let's
so I'm being terrible.
well let's drink in what you just said. I've got some, that's
Yeah, I
okay.
know. I'm on a good run.
You don't have to hurry up and get it all out. You can,
Okay. Well, let
even
me
if you
throw
want
this
to.
quote out. I'm thinking
Okay,
of it, and
throw the
then
quote out.
I'll take a quick break. It says, the quote goes like this: "I'd rather have questions I can't answer than answers I can't question."
I love that.
You like that? Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, if you do merch, it's gonna be really good. No, I love that you're actually wanting to do this and talk. That's great. No, we can just pace it, and just I haven't had as much coffee as you
No, no,
yet.
no. You're hearing 3 cups of coffee talking. I don't usually have that much in the morning. I was supposed to go to a physical at 9, and then it got canceled. So I was like, okay, I got a bunch of time on my hands, and I have all this
Yeah, this
coffee in
is
my
great.
system. So
So I like to, every channel has its own style. Of course, I'll adjust it for you, but um, I like to, throw out some thoughts, some ponderings, and some morning musings, and get input. Kind of go back and forth, and I love to engage the chat. That's like my favorite part because all you guys are my friends. So. From a poet, I still hold anxiety about the fear of hell. Oh God. Yes, me too. I've never really been a believer, even when I got into the LDS Church, Latter-day Saints, Mormons. Um, what you take in with your mother's milk tends to stick around. That is a really good point.
hmm,
What you take in with your mother's milk tends to stick
yeah.
around. Yep, that is so true. And that's something that Peggy, sorry, I get Peggy and Penny mixed up. I'll have Penny and Peggy tomorrow. Penny's gonna be um, probably backstage, but we are gonna have an interview with Penny at some point. She told me so, and Peggy and I will be talking along those lines about children being indoctrinated. Mrs. J, I have a couple things I want to put up from Mrs. J. Um, listening in and can't read chat. That's okay. We'll read it out loud. We'll read your questions and comments and everyone's. You know who Mrs. J is?
Um,
She's this lovely lady from the UK. She was an ex Pentecostal. Her father was a evangelist. Yeah, something
hmm,
like that. And
cool.
she does streams with poetry and choking. They're very cool. Oh, this was the thing I wanted to put up from Mrs. J. Fundamental born again Christians are a cult. Took me a long time to actually say that. Yes, it
Yeah,
took us a long
yeah,
time too. Yeah.
yeah. Anything that's an extreme, yeah,
Hmm.
I completely agree. When you get this
Yep.
fundamentalist, absolutist extremism, I
Yep.
swear, that's where
Yeah.
people go off track, and they're the ones that you don't
Yeah.
want to get involved with.
And I think that charismatic evangelicalism, if you want to say that's a word, is if not a cult, it's extremely culty and it's a gateway to cults. And we've seen so many cults branch off from our evangelical Pentecostal charismatic churches that we both were in. I was pretty much brought up in it. Duncan joined it as an adult from being a Methodist, but that yeah, that took me a long time to say Mrs. J too, because you don't want to be like, oh, that's cult, that's cult, that's cult. But you know what? It is what it is, right? And especially when you have that whole thing, the mystical, like, oh, I'm born again. Oh, I have something different. Oh, I'm anointed. I have a word from God. That's how Jim Jones started. He became a Pentecostal as a young man, and he started getting these quote prophetic words from God. Some of them were great and legit, whether they were from God or not. The desegregating movie theaters and all the things that he did, preaching segregation and freedom and anti-segregation.
Mm,
He desegregated movie theaters. So and then in San Francisco, he had a church that it was called Wings of Deliverance, turned into People's Temple, which we all know was totally evil in the end, but it didn't totally start out like that. So yeah, that's why. And I wanted to say that's why you were talking, honey. There were a couple comments, and I just
mm,
want to really reach out to all of you who have been either uh, victims of that abusive relationships, cults, any narcissistic abuse, and just say I don't like to dwell on the negative. It's more of a way of sharing our stories and empowering each other. So please take care, take self care. We didn't know what we were gonna discuss. We had watched a bunch of news interviews with Aaron and Mike and Leah and stuff. And so we kind of prepped for that. But for some reason, you never know. Things
Hmm.
just happened and we started talking about, this. So coercive control and our experiences. So like I said, I'm sort of flying solo on StreamYard, and I'm glad I have Duncan to
Let me see that
talk about
comment.
stuff. Oh,
OBG Foster. I
yeah,
wanted to answer that one a little bit.
sure.
So,
You read it out, OBG
yeah,
Foster.
so former Episcopalian and atheist since 1990. It took about 10 years to get over the fear that my thoughts could be read by ... something. So, yeah, that's part of the problem I had and still have a certain, like the idea that somehow God or other people have this, like, in other words, God sitting behind some supercomputer with the ability to read every thought you have and that everybody has and
Yeah.
examine all your motives and your thinking, like that sets up the idea that God is basically, in my opinion, some kind of monster that's just waiting for you to misstep in a little bit, and then you're going to have to answer for everything you ever said, did, or thought. And I used to kind of buy into that, like, well, yeah, if God's God, he knows everything and can do all this, but has he really got time? Or just the idea put you in fear, like now it's almost like Scientology where you're surrounded by cameras and videos and people doing sec checks and all this other crap, writing up reports on you. That whole paranoid, like to me, distrust destroys a relationship or an organization. If you can't trust in the integrity of somebody, get away from them.
Mm-hmm.
That's my attitude. Like if you're in a relationship where there's distrust, there's no transparency, get out, because that to me is like the biggest red flag ever. Like if you're being monitored and if nobody trusts you, if you're not trusted in a relationship, you're not going to grow as a person. You're going to be in fear all the time, and it's very inhibiting. So my attitude is like, you get into like here, I feel like we can trust people in this SPTV organization because we've been there and we've been through a lot of shit. And there's probably a few, trolls in among us that are trying to infiltrate. And if you're there, I hope you wake up one day and realize you're on the wrong side of the fence, because we care about each other. We love people we don't even know and may never physically meet, but I feel like we share a common bond because we've been there, we've suffered under, who cares what kind of cult or bad relationship. We've all been in these situations where we understand and we have compassion. And the more, I think to a degree, yeah, the more you've suffered, the more compassion you're going to have because,
Yeah, that makes sense.
you've been there, like,
Yeah.
we're watching what Mike Rinder's going through. And I'm like, damn, we're old enough to have lost a lot of people and seen people have cancer and recover from it. So we're all behind him. We're like, damn, that could be us, it could, but for circumstances. So we all have our battles to fight, but we're all in this thing together. We're a tighter little, say, quote unquote, church in a sense of just being a cohesive community that support one another. That's to me what a church is supposed to be. When it doesn't fulfill that set of criteria, it's not doing the job a church is supposed to do. It's an organization, but I mean, something like Scientology was basically out to make money for a guy and give him power, and it's still going on, grinding people up in the name of God. That's ludicrous. So I'm just glad, this actually is uniting us. Like something bad can convert to something good by putting us together and saying, hey, we're in support of one another. So
Yeah, there's like an isolation thing that happens not only when you're in a abusive, spiritually abusive situation, group, cult, anything, and and it's almost like the specialized language, the threats, the paranoia, all of that. I think that makes it so hard that when you finally do break out, um, it's hard to relate to people because it's been, just only about a year since we started speaking out, and it was 15 years coming since we left. And it was so hard to find anyone that would really understand or want to hear about it because you just felt weird. So it has been, very healing and empowering and just wonderful to have this community where we can talk about things and understand. And even if somebody just kind of, falls into the chat, just tunes in just because they're curious about cults, and then they start to hear something that they can relate to, I think that's really what has built what now it's like 189,000 subscribers for Aaron,
Yeah, it's
because
crazy.
yeah, he's
That's
gotten
huge.
about 10,000. Oh, here's your buddy. Oh
Hey,
boy.
there he is. Howdy. Hey, glad you're
See?
here, bud. Hmm.
Oh Lord, here come the hashtags, I bet.
Uh-oh. Well, I'm here. There's
He's
evidence.
here. Yes.
Yeah.
And he's hyped up on 3 cups of coffee, so
Yeah. I'm not the. This is morning Duncan, not night Duncan.
he's usually out
Night
like
Duncan's
chopping
usually
wood
kind
or
of
doing
tired, but
something. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
hmm,
Yes, Duncan. See, are these people great?
yeah. I was
This is fun.
gonna.
I'm talking a lot to them. That's
That's
why I
good
hang
though.
out with them.
Yeah, I was just gonna throw out a random thought that occurred to me recently, that the idea, like you think of definitions of real love, and as opposed to that horrendous book where you're beating your kids into submission and make them obey you and turn them into little bots that don't dare step out to the right or the left. I mean, to me, that's the utter opposite of what's real, because the philosophy we operate by, we didn't always do this right, and we still don't do it right. But my sense is, if like actual love for anybody is to do what will best advance their growth as a person and help them become all they can be. Even though it sounds a little corny, like a Navy commercial, it's like, no, if your real interest is love, it's a proactive outward. How can I make your life better? How can I help you grow as a person? That's the philosophy that I try to live by.
Right.
And with our kids, it's like, yeah, we didn't start out having any idea what we were doing. You fall into being a parent kind of by accident, and all of a sudden you've got a kid coming, and now you got to figure out how to bring them up. And you're doing the diaper thing and all the stuff when they're little, and then later you got to be, geez, these are turning to people. We made a big commitment here. We got to help a person become somebody that can function in this world. That's a tall order, and it's not to be taken lightly. But
Mm-hmm.
to truly love somebody, you got to be giving. And most of us start out pretty selfish. Like kids are generally selfish because that's just how you're born. And over time, you build a philosophy. And if you build a good philosophy, you're looking to do it. So in any relationship, like a husband-wife relationship, if you're selfish, you're going to try to exploit or use or over rely on the other person or whatever. And that's what, to me, my observation is what ruins most relationships is people with selfish motives they can't let go of. I think it actually is a thing, like even in our relationship, where you can look at the other person, because we've been married a long time now. It's like, hey, you know what? I respect the fact you're different. It's okay. We don't have to like go through like almost like annihilating yourself to become one with the other person and merge into the single entity that agrees on everything. That's not reality. That's fantasy land. It's like, no, I can look at Marilyn and say, man, she's really good at a bunch of things. And even, doing all the stream stuff, it's like, I'm learning from her. I can respect and support what she's doing as a person and say, hey, I want to see you grow into who you're supposed to be. I don't want to hold you back. I don't want to use some authoritarian mindset that people still hold on to, even in the church. Well, this person's over you and they're your commander and all this stuff. That's bullshit. I hate to
That's
say it.
why, yeah, that's
Bullshit.
why the IBOP stuff really didn't work
It's
with us.
repulsive. Yeah. To me, that's like,
I
that's
lucked out.
fucked up. Do you want your kids to be these robots, these animals that you can just yell at and they'll do what you want? Well, I know guys that are like, have that kind of
Yeah.
sledgehammer mentality where it's just a command and control. Well, yeah, if you're in the military or the police or something, I get it. Command and control is required in circumstances where you got to take control of a situation. But in relationships where you're in cooperation and versus like competition or control, you've got to have a totally different MO. So to me, the MO that works in a relationship is trust and doing what's best for the other people in the relationship.
I think the key word is relationship versus just this top down authoritarian mentality of just barking orders at your kids, oppressing your wife, becoming your own cult leader, which basically in Shiny Happy People, one of the survivors basically said that, and I totally agree with it, that the IBLP and Bill Gothard's teachings basically made it so that every man could have his own little cult in his own home. And,
Yeah,
I've explained a bunch of times how Marlene justified being a woman and having that same top down authority was that God told her, because God told her a lot of stuff, that there were no other men that were qualified. There were no men in our area that were qualified to lead the flock. So that's why she, ended up being our cult leader, and she would manipulate, people like Duncan, telling him, she wanted him to step forward, but then she didn't like what he had to say about God's love. It was just all conditional. And I was just thinking about the thing with our kids is we try to foster that relationship. Now that they're older, they're pretty much on their own, they can do what they want, but we do feel like we have a close relationship with them,
Yeah,
and they
we're
can come
yeah.
to us, and they don't have to be afraid. That was something that we really didn't set well with us at that church. And so my daughter was 9 when we left, and my boys were 5 and 6, and we were like, we got to get out of here for their sake.
Yeah, now I can say it without bragging even. We're a really tight family. Well, we can yell at each other and get upset about things, but if anybody tries to get between us and take down any one of us, they're up against all of us. So that's something I'm kind of happy about. I know I can
Hey,
trust them
Terry.
all implicitly. So
Sorry, I'm sort of like chasing butterfly.
yeah,
I was like,
that's
hey,
good.
Terry.
Yeah, I don't want to ignore anyone out there. Yeah.
I just like to acknowledge people that come in and listen to us ramble. Love it. And we just wanted to get a couple of thoughts. I mean, you guys have so much input. It's great, and we could do a whole stream on this one comment. From a poet. Buddhists call it the self. It's foundation of all life. It all starts with the self. It is a foundation. If it's broken, whatever built on it will not stand. Yeah, and in the twisted cult that Joe was in, she was saying how they used it against her. She'd say if she had her own thought, her own you know, autonomous thing where she said this doesn't feel right, they'd say, oh, that's your ego, or you're mentally ill, or you're this and that. And that's totally what happened to us. And in our cult, it was the self was a bad thing. That's self. Like anything that could be construed as something that you wanted for your quote self, like just I got to the point where I couldn't even think about like what my favorite color was, anything, because it's like, oh, that's yourself. Any preferences, any opinions, it all had to be filtered through what Marlene thought was right. And she had all of her own opinions and preferences, down to the amount of cheese to put in a casserole, the amount of orange juice to drink, and we are paying for it, and just how to do everything. It was like you got to wash the toilets with your bare hands with ammonia water inside the bowl. And it was a way to break you down. It was a way to get you not to question when she asked you to do something even worse. So, I mean, we didn't get to the Kool-Aid or pudding part of it, but I'm telling you, I think that it could have gotten much worse than it was. Although, people were starving, they were going insane, children were being abused. There was some real bad shit
Yeah, I'm
going
glad it
on.
never got scaled up. Yeah, honestly, because nobody could really grasp the doctrine after a while, and it
Yeah.
was like you
People
almost
started
had to
dropping off.
keep people out because
Yeah.
they wouldn't understand, and they already thought it was a cult, but they didn't know. We didn't. It's like
She got more
speaking to
and
and
more
removing all
crazy.
doubt. It's like they
Right.
didn't want people to know what really was going on because it became
Yeah, she
pretty
got more and
absurd.
more dark and crazy.
And
It's
then
just
one
got
thing
nuts.
too is from a psychological standpoint, I look back and I'm like, certain words like death were constantly used, and psychologically, like your mind is suggestible and your
Yeah.
subconscious mind stores up what you hear over and over and over because it's top of mind. And to me, the constant use of words like die to this, die to that, die to self, and the whole self-annihilation mindset, well, God can't use you if you have anything left of your own self or your will or this or that. So that was the extremism of it. It wasn't just making a temporary sacrifice, you know for somebody else that might cost you something. It was more like a constant mindset of always tearing yourself down more and more until there's nothing left of you, with the idea that somehow that's
Yeah.
going to magically transform you into a wonderful person with a lot to give, which totally is the opposite of the idea of taking care of self first, which
Right.
is a sound doctrine. Like if you want to be able to help somebody else, but you're starving, you have no energy, or you have neglected yourself, you're miserable, you have no money, and now you're going to go be a great hero and save the world. I don't think so. You have nothing to offer, you know? So take care of yourself first so you have something to offer. You have enough strength to help anybody else, and why, this is my other argument too, is why are you less important than everyone else out there? Because I used to
Yeah.
resent the fact that
Yep.
I was laying my life down to help people out there that had normal lives. Something seemed a little twisted. Like there's a
Yeah.
double
We were
standard,
like the Sea Org. I often wonder if people in the Sea Org are like, what the hell? I had to sign a billion-year contract. I get maybe, if I'm lucky, $50 a week. Usually not. Usually nothing. And you're living in these terrible conditions, and you're serving these like ungrateful. Some of them are rich. Well, you have to have money to pay for Scientology, but especially like Celebrity Center and stuff. I just wonder if they're grumbling to themselves once in a while, like, why do I have to do Tom Cruise's laundry for nothing? And yeah, you're enabling him to live higher than you when he's getting Flava Flav medals and all kinds of stuff. It isn't fair. It isn't.
Yeah, you're just in the low caste, like you're a
Right.
servant class
Yeah.
person that has to grovel at these people's feet, and they're giving big money to the church, and da da da.
I wanted to read this from Clearwater Claire, the Taylor, honey. I'm selfish towards myself. I give so much to so many others, and that I neglect myself. I'm trying to learn to give to me, and love myself. I love that. Good for you, Claire, because you're worth it.
Yeah.
You're
You
worth it.
don't count yourself, because
Right.
I'll throw out a little tiny comment here too. Is my younger son Carter was going through some tough times a few years ago, and he was fighting some depression and stuff. And when I was a kid, that was me. So one time I had this talk with him. I said, you know what? One of the things that set me free, one day it dawned on me when I was beating myself up about something I'd done that wasn't good. I'm like, you know what? I'm no worse than all the other assholes out there. And there's no reason I should be beating myself up. If you're trying to do good and your heart is in a place where you want to be a better person, you want to do better, guess what? Do it. Forgive yourself and move on, because you know what? These other idiots out there, they're no better than you are. Most of them are even worse, and most of them don't even have the intent to do better. So just let it go, because that was like freeing for me when I realized it's like all these other people that I think are doing better, or they're better people than me, they're not. So I might as well just say, hey, I'm just another imperfect person out there. I don't need to be dragging a ball and chain of guilt or feeling like I'm unworthy and all this other crap that some religions will throw on you. It's like I threw it off. And it's like, it's very freeing.
Yeah, sometimes I'll half jokingly say to my kids, don't talk about my child like that. I love them.
Yeah,
you don't be mean to my child. And it's talking about themselves, they'll just kind of laugh at me. but it's true. It's like, hey, I value you. You're valued. You're loved. Stop picking on yourself. It's not,
Yeah, because
that's
beating
not
up
nice.
yourself,
Right.
It doesn't work. I tried it. I spent years beating myself up over my weaknesses and faults.
Yeah.
Guess what? It didn't make me happier or better or more productive or anything. So I had to go.
Yeah. I'm just putting up some things I had started earlier. Princess, the only dumb/stupid question is the one never asked. Questions lead to knowledge. Knowledge is power. Right. And they're, cults are afraid of you getting knowledge that they don't want you to know. Right. The knowledge of the tree of good and evil, or right and wrong. I think we do have that knowledge of right and wrong. And if we question something that's wrong, I always say this, and it's so true. I don't know where I got it from. I mean, it's a pretty simple concept, but it's kind of the whistleblower thing. Is if you say there's a problem, if you wave a flag or you blow the whistle and say, hey, there's a problem here, suddenly you become the problem. I'm gonna move this a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll add to that thought, and I won't get political.
Yes.
I promise.
No, let's know.
Okay, but throughout history, it's been basically revealed and corroborated that most oppressors, tyrants, rulers, dictators, the first people to go after when they're trying to take power is the intellectuals, the people that actually are critical thinkers, and they destroy them, drive them out, whatever. They don't want to be questioned. They don't want the competition. They know they can't stand for the truth, because the truth would take them down. So if they can wipe out anybody that questions what they're doing or is smarter than them, then they can find it much easier to establish themselves. And then they use violence and force to take over the rest of the people, and fear to control and manipulate them. So that's just a principle, So your best protection is, be one of those people that does question and does understand things and study, and don't be afraid of it.
Want to read this one, honey?
Sure. Okay, so OBG Foster again. if you want to be a good person, you don't need cult training, because if you want to be a good person, you are a good. Yeah, I go with that totally. It's your intent. If
Yes.
you intend to be a better person,
Yeah.
you're on an upward trajectory,
Yeah.
and you want to be a better person. And yeah, submitting to. I mean, there's so many people out there that. I mean, all the clickbait you see on Facebook or online in any format, is about health things to be better, or training to be better, all this kind of stuff, trying to suck you into something. And a
Yeah.
lot of those people have good ideas, and you can learn from them, because I watched a certain amount of that kind of stuff to learn. And
Yeah.
you want to follow people that are really good at something and know something, but there's a hell of a lot of others that are going to mislead you.
Yeah, there's I can't remember which of the second gens were saying this recently, probably a lot of them, that if you think you might be, or afraid that you're a suppressive person, you're not. The fact that you're even worried about it, and the fact that if you're worried about being a narcissist, you're probably not. They don't admit to be a narcissist even to themselves. If you're worried about being a bad parent, we all make mistakes. If you're willing to tell your child, hey, I'm sorry, I messed up, I love you, I'll try to listen and consider you next time. you know I think that's the crux of it, really. Jen left, but I wanted to put this up. um she had to leave us, but highly recommend the film documentary 1946. Dives into the fact that the Bible has been mistranslated many times. Biblical literalism, discussion, etc. Good stuff. So we should check that out. That actually sounds
Yeah.
really, really good. I'd like to watch that. The film documentary 1946.
Hmm.
Because I'm always, yeah, I'm always interested in knowing like what translations are what, and what, you know, just kind of deconstructing the doctrine that we just had to blindly follow. And like Duncan was saying earlier about the scientific method, I mean, there's just so many things that are just absolutely possible that the Bible talks about. There could have been a great flood in that area. There could have been, Sodom and Gomorrah, all that stuff. But yeah, as far as that being the only thing that was happening on Earth, that's not. This
Yeah,
just
and what's the
can't be
point of
true.
fighting about it, whether it happened or not? That's not, to me, in
Right.
the end, that's not terribly relevant. It's what's happening to you as a person. Are you becoming a better person, or helping your neighbor? I mean, all right, so a flood happened or didn't happen, big deal. It's nice history. It's interesting. It's great stories to tell kids. But in the end, does that matter? I don't think so.
Yes, but the dinosaurs were real,
Yeah.
and the Earth is not flat. Just saying. I just had to put that out
I
there.
think it's
I'm
safe
not
to say
getting
that.
political. I don't think it's a political thing. It's just a fact.
No, I'm going to have to excuse myself
Okay, sweetie.
briefly to turn
Okay.
in some of that coffee for recycling. I will be back.
All right, I'm going to wind down soon anyways. We're at an hour and a half, but so great that everyone joined us today. So yeah, that's Duncan. He's definitely my my smarter half there. I'm glad he was his physical, his doctor's appointment got canceled. So I was like, hey, you want to jump on? And we didn't end up talking about what we were planning on talking about, Danny Masterson and Aaron's interview with Chris Como and Leah and Mike, but this is kind of what came up. So I like doing that. Marilyn, have either of you heard of Herbert W. Armstrong? Oh, he left before I could ask him. Worldwide Church of God does sound very familiar. United Church of God. Church of God is Pentecostal, I believe. Shakta Nation Princess. If you're still here, I'm going to keep that start. So maybe we can go back to it. My ex-husband wanted me to convert to it. My gut or the Holy Spirit saying, no, it is wrong. Not my church. After researching it, I refused, and we divorced a few years later. Good for you. Glad you had the wherewithal to do that. This is a little while ago, but I'm just reading the ones that I starred from you guys. Clara the Tailor. Yes, thank you, Duncan. Time is money, and knowledge is worth that money. Too many people complain about the quote cost as a tailor. I hear it so much. Yeah, I can imagine. I could use a tailor myself, but you're so far away. I don't think my clothes aren't really worth repairing though. um, let's see. Princess, I don't trust doctors because all my life I've been medically gaslit to point to the point I don't trust myself, let alone the knowledge of doctors and professionals. Yeah, I understand that. Trust is definitely a hard thing. Absolutely. I'm just unstarring a few things here. Um, Selena, good to see you, Selena. It's always good to see you. OBG Foster, yes, I didn't even realize that was a religion thing. Having a wank seance with your dead grandparents watching over you makes for uncomfortable private time as a teenager. Oh, yeah. Um, that's awful. That's awful. I I was afraid of all that stuff because like, we were taught that that's evil, but then it's weird because my church and then eventually the cult I was in had like their own version of that spiritual weird stuff. Not contacting the dead, but just that whole spiritual mysticism thing. But also anything that they deemed occult was evil and you would just be like afraid. Yeah, very, very uncomfortable as a kid and teenager for me too. Definitely. Princess, we have compassion. If I find trolls trying to hurt Marilyn, oh, thank you, honey. I will scare you off. We love and embrace each other here. We do. We do. And I appreciate that because today I think I had Terry was in the chat or still is, I'm not sure. And I love my mods, Julie and Penny. Penny will be with us tomorrow. One of these days she's gonna do an interview with me. I'm so excited. Penny 5A. And tomorrow I'll be on with Peggy on my channel, maybe her channel, I'm not sure. But it's already scheduled for 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. The title of our talk is growing up in the cultiverse, and on the thumbnail I put all different symbols of different cults and culty um, denominations and groups, and we'll be talking about how it affects children. And I think it's really important to talk about and to be aware of. And um, it's just so on my heart and mind to advocate for the kids that are trapped in these situations. They didn't ask for it. They didn't, hi, sweetie. They didn't choose it. They've been forced to accept things that are wrong. And I'll flash this book again to train up a child. This is has been used to abuse, I venture to say, millions of children. And that was the one that my cult used and the Duggars used, and we refused to do your classes. I'll read stuff to you, honey, if you don't want to glare. Oh, what's going on?
Oh.
He's getting antsy.
No. I just remember there's a little guy that wanted to say hi.
Oh boy. Okay. We're winding down. You guys want to see some puppies?
This little guy's been at the door waiting.
Oh.
He wanted to come in, so
He slips through the gate. We had Apollo in the kitchen, but this guy is so tiny. Let me see. Oh, you have a black background, so
I know. Yeah. So
you look. Say
yeah,
hi.
little Rocky.
Oh,
You
he's
want to say hi?
say hi. Say
Yeah.
hi. I love
He's
his
being a good
paws.
boy.
Mhm. You pretty boy. You pretty boy. This is Rocky. He blends in. It's hard to see
He
him.
does. Yeah, that's interesting.
Puppy. Yeah, he's such a
Alright.
good boy. Rocky. He's like, you're crazy, Mom. You're crazy. You can always see his paws. Say hi.
Hi, little
Daddy.
Rocky. How you doing, little bud? You're so cute. You're a good
There's
critter.
something about animals. I think that they're definitely therapeutic.
They
We
are.
love them.
Yeah, you gotta
We
love them.
love them.
They'll pull some love out of you. almost no matter what state of
Yeah,
mind
Duncan
you're in.
didn't grow up with pets, so he was a little bit
Yeah.
hesitant when we got 2 rescues, when the kids were little, and, I always loved having pets. I thought it was, definitely good to have something to take care of, and now he's, like, is even soft. He'd probably let me have 5 of these, you know?
Well, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
the 2
2 is
is
enough.
good. We had about a year between where we lost our last 2 and before we got another, and
Mm,
we were kind of, it hurts. We lost our
yeah.
last one to an auto accident. And that was terrible. And for about a year, it took about a year to get over that, where we were willing to take that risk of having another critter. But they really do something for you. The place was too
Mm,
a little quiet and lonely
yeah.
without a critter. So
But both of our rescues were older, and, Kia and Champ, and Kia had a lot of we had to let her go and put her down. It was awful. Right during
yeah, she was
COVID, both
almost
of them.
indestructible until
Yeah.
she got so old. But I
So
mean,
we
yeah,
weren't planning on having any more. If we had, we would have gone and found rescues, but my daughter surprised us with these guys, so we couldn't
yeah.
say no, and I'm glad we did. Hi, sweetie.
Mhm. So anyway, I wanted my
Mm,
disclaimer is thanks to everybody that listened through all my ranting. I was very cranked on coffee, but I
That's
appreciated being
okay.
here
That's good to
because
hear.
I'm always an advocate of
Mm.
acknowledging everybody in the chat because I feel like if you're on the chat, you don't want to be completely overlooked.
Here, take him for a minute.
But I'm actually a supporter of the undercurrent in the chat. Like if it's a lot of people and a lot being said, then you can at least communicate with the rest of the people in the chat if you don't get your particular chat noticed. But anyway,
Where's Bullwinkle?
Bullwinkle. Yeah, we need to get a
No, it's
Bullwinkle,
all
don't
good.
we?
Doug is the more serious of the 2 of us, as you can see. He's the smarter and the more serious. My puppies keep me going. Yeah.
Yeah, we like these little
Um,
guys.
yeah, OBG Foster. I don't recommend it. The only reason why I bought a kind of a used bootleg copy, I will not bootleg, but used copy, because I wanted to get no not only the original, but because we had gotten rid of all of our stuff. Um, I think it was important, especially with the shiny happy people. Sorry, honey, I'm covering your face.
Okay.
Shiny happy people coming out, and the fact that we could relate to it. I actually did. I should tomorrow I'll definitely get the links together. But if you go on the homepage of my channel, scroll down a little bit on just the regular videos, the second video after my introduction, it's called Monsters of Discipline. And I basically go through the whole book and read little excerpts as much as I could, being on YouTube. But you can see all the tabs. And yeah, it just give an overview. It was my first video, so excuse me. I think I was like looking off in the distance and really nervous. And but if you're interested, I wouldn't even bother buying it, because yeah, you don't want to support them.
Yeah, you can
So
find a lot online, little quotes and pages and
yeah.
what have you, so you don't have to support them. But I think it's important to point out like things like that like to me, it's like if you
Hi,
analyze
princess.
that the mind behind that, it's like who are they doing this for? Is it really for the benefit of the kids? And ultimately, no. I think it's for the benefit of the person that has such a huge ego and they're narcissistic. They want to be in control. They want absolute control over other people. To me, that's a red flag right there. Anybody that wants some kind of ruthless, absolute control over somebody else is a monster. I don't care how they try to justify it. You're not doing it for the benefit of that kid. You
Mm-hmm.
want mindless robots that won't question you. That's not a human being that you're trying to promote. You're trying to create a robot that will obey your commands. So it's like you're the monster with the big ego that feels like you got to control other people. That's the opposite of my definition of what love is. They're going to be afraid to do anything that you don't authorize or tell them to do. They're not going to be able to become themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They've been utterly suppressed and controlled. That's just a evil philosophy. So
I had a few starred questions, and as soon as you got up, I flashed something, and it was for both of us. Princess wanted to know. I think she had to duck out a minute
oh
ago.
yeah,
But have either of you heard of Herbert W. Armstrong, Worldwide Church of God, United Church of God? I know Church of God is
yeah, I've heard the
Pentecostal.
name Herbert Armstrong,
Yeah,
but
we'll
I
have to
honestly
look
don't
that up.
recall. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, I feel like I should be taking
I
notes,
think
but
that might have
we'll check it
been,
out.
well, it's recorded, so you can go back and look.
Yeah.
That's the good thing about being recorded. There's bad things like
Very
I just
true.
woke up. No.
Like, oh, did I say that?
I
Oh
know, I
no.
know. That is what it is. Um, Matt, we call her Mac. Her name is Sophia. Mac.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I could
The only
pronounce
one that
that.
can pronounce it is Joe and probably
Yeah.
Mac. That's always been my issue. An adult's religious choice shouldn't limit a child's one. I agree with that. Don't know how it could be enforced or yeah. Um, Terry, right? Yeah, this was one of the things we were going to talk about today. We never really got to it, but absolutely, Kim, Leah, and Mike on CNN was huge.
Oh,
It
totally.
was.
Yeah, I
It
feel
was.
like we're making so much progress. The momentum. I feel like, yeah, for a long time it was like a pan of frogs there, and somebody just cranked the heat to high. And now,
Hmm.
Scientology they have every right to be nervous. In fact, they should be panicking right now. So it's good.
Yeah, there was a stream with Mark and Aaron yesterday, and I think that was the title. It was like basically Scientology's panicking, and they were kind of going through a bunch of cases from that have been around for a while, and child SA cases and all kinds of things that have happened, things that haven't actually been brought to justice at all, like not even lawsuits yet. Hopefully they will come out, but they're being hit from all angles, and they're just lashing back with like a very um, frantic, weak attempt to try to put all the fires out. It's just nuts. Witness said the momentum is turning up. I hope we can sustain the. Absolutely.
Yep.
Couldn't
Yep.
agree more. Just keep hitting them from every angle. And the fact that it was on CNN, whether you agree with the politics, whatever, it is a major news outlet, and even News Nation with Aaron and Joe Reich were on with Chris Como yesterday. No matter what you think about him, they were there to talk about Scientology. So.
Yeah, that's the important thing is now Scientology is not just Danny Masterson. Scientology is on trial because their fair game policies, all the stuff that it's good that L. Ron Hubbard had all this stuff recorded and written down because it's the very thing that's going to do him in. The fact that there's just so much evidence and information, and once it all gets out, they've got to come down.
Yeah, both interviews were really good. I know the Leah and Mike one. They're not fooling around. I love how they're serious, but at the same time, like if you know because you watch them all the time, you hear little things like Aaron was like he was like convicted or R word, surreal. Yeah, I can't really say that word. Yeah.
Scientologists in good standing.
Right.
Just let
In the same sentence. Yeah.
He's talking about the weather.
So anyone that doesn't know, be like, oh, he's been convicted and he's still in good standing with that quote church. That's effed up. Yeah, it is. It is. Totally is. Joni Cummings, and she must be talking about this book. That book is dumb. It is, and it's evil too, and it's terrible. It's done a lot of damage. And I'm sure we'll be talking about that tomorrow with Peggy Brott, who, if anyone hasn't just tuning in, Peggy Brott is a researcher for That's So Bucked Up podcast with Ashley Richards. She is also one of our fabulous moderators on Coffee Cults and Crafts on Facebook, and just so smart and empathetic, and just has just a wealth of information. So tomorrow at 11 Eastern, I'll be talking to her about growing up in the cultiverse, we're calling it, and all different different cults and just different things that have happened to children, and the way that coercive control and cult mindset has affected children, and having some they want minions.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, and breaking them down. And the Duggars, I think, are a good example. After a while, I couldn't tell. I didn't really watch the show at all, just maybe an episode or two. But I mean, they all like look the same. Like Ginger Joe did. I didn't know who was who, and they all had this blank stare and this empty look and smile, grin.
Well,
smile
a
on
lot
their
of
face.
that, and maybe partially because there's a lot of celebrities and actors in Scientology and stuff, but they're being trained to be actors and actresses, not real people. Put on the smile. You're proud and happy, and what's that other thing that NASA would push?
Thrilled.
Yeah, and thrilled. I mean, this is how you're to
Yeah.
present. So it's all about how you present, not who you really are as a person deep down, which to me is another red flag. Anytime you people see people more concerned about their outer, how they present themselves or outer appearance than what they really like as people, that's fake. You know what I mean? They're fake. So there's a lot of fakery out there.
He's squeaking.
I'm gonna
I think he needs
park
some
this
water.
little
He
guy
looks
here. I'm gonna
thirsty.
bring him out.
He looks thirsty, honey.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
honey.
Rocky, for participating. Good seeing y'all.
Thank you, honey.
We'll see you very soon again.
Yes, this is great. So we'll wind down a little bit, but I wanted to take some more really good comments here. Michelle R. When I first heard of blanket training, I thought it was about napping. Yeah. That was something I refused to do. It was definitely encouraged in my call. We had to take the curriculum. I had to take the quote to train up a child course, and I absolutely refused. I was so happy and thrilled to be a mom, and I was not going to do that to an infant, literally an infant. As soon as they could sit up at like 6 months old, they would tell you to put them on a blanket and put a toy, their favorite toy, just out of their reach, and if they reach for it, you smack them. It just makes me sick. It makes me sick. And the way that they tried to rationalize it was, well, what if they were running towards the street, or what if this or that? And like he tells, this is Michael and Debbie Pearl, and they're just some of the most evil people on the planet. And if you look up their picture, I'm sorry, but not to be judgmental, but they remind me of Elizabeth Smart's kidnappers. They kind of look like them, seriously. If you remember the Elizabeth Smart case, just super, super creepy. And he talks about how like his kids would just snap into place and snap and just uh, I will if you just look up, I think it's like 25 minutes maybe, my little book review on it. I kind of go through several examples that he gives and read some of the things. It's just I don't even want to repeat it. It gives me the willies and makes me upset. So, but just take care. I do give a pretty major trigger warning on that one. Uh, Even if you got to break the 25 minutes up in 5 or 10-minute increments, but take care. Sophia, Jill Duggar's book is out this week. On the note of that, oh, that abomination of a book. It's done so much damage. And these people, these Michael and Debbie Pearl, No Greater Joy is their the name of their ministry. Like nogreaterjoy.org. Successful parents learn to maintain fellowship with your child, spank less, and get total obedience. What does that sound like? Total obedience. Yeah, it's authoritarian and horrible. Yeah, and that's why the IBLP and Bill Gothard pushes their materials. That's how we found out about it, because of that. So I'll tell everybody that you said bye, Duncan. Tell Duncan that. Tip 45. I love how Leah says, yes, I filed a lawsuit, but for thousands of people. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. She's doing it so that others will be heard. And the day that was really, that story broke, that she was suing the church, I remember, I'll never forget, the Degraded Daughters of Dianetics and a bunch of the second gens were just elated, and they got on their channels and they were just celebrating because they felt seen and heard and vindicated and cared about. So absolutely, that's a really, really good point, Tiff. Definitely. Hey, Joel. Hi, folks. I'm late, but not absent. So I'm coming up on almost 2 hours, like an hour and 50 minutes. But Joel, Duncan was on here for a good hour and a half with me. So if you want to watch the replay at some point, but I'll hang out. I'll hang out with you. for a little few more minutes. Michelle R., how can you look at a baby and feel like you need Yeah, utter cruelty. I know. Yeah, there's this bizarre um thing. It's every day's opposites day in cults, right? So there's this thing that good is bad, bad is good kind of thing. So it's good for them. They in our case, they talked about in fundamental Christianity is how like they get it from the thing with, you're a sinner, you could Jesus came to die for your sins and all that. But they also say that you have a sin nature because of what happened in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve and the apple and the serpent and all that. And that's why we're born bad. So you look at this beautiful baby. I was just so in awe and so happy to have my kids because I didn't really feel like I ever had much of a family as far as never really felt like I really belonged anywhere. Even though my adopted family, I love my adopted sisters. They're wonderful. I still am close to them to this day, but I never felt like I belonged anywhere. So when I had my own kids, I wanted them to feel differently. I wanted them to feel loved. And I was told that my kids were an idol, that I didn't care about their salvation. I didn't care that they were born with this evil nature that had to be broken out of them, that had to be disciplined out of them, that had to be trained out of them. And to look at a 6-month-old baby who hasn't done anything wrong. Sorry. I get emotional about that. Yeah, it is cruel. It's just cruel and unusual and horrible. And it really needs to stop because it is going on now in thousands of households. Thousands. There this book, I mean, it should be banned. I mean, I don't know. I guess you can't really ban, but okay. I won't get political, but yeah. So short of being banned, we're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna keep talking about I'm gonna keep waving it. I'm gonna keep it right next to me. It's evil. And I want to get a picture of the new cover so people recognize it. But yeah. Whew, I get I get on my talk about Joel, talk about soapbox. Misbehaving. Thanks for making my work day so much better. Thanks for being with us, misbehaving. I like a little misbehaving. Yeah, this is great. Mm. Terry Ray. It's a long link, so I can't type what it is, but here's a full segment of CNN's Jake Tapper interview. Yes, if you go to Mike's, you just type in Mike. I'm sure everybody on here has already subscribed to Mike, but that's how I found. Oh, here it is. Okay, perfect. There you go. Wow, it is long. Thank you. Yeah, if you go to Mike's channel, he has the whole. Somehow he got the whole thing. I guess he must have gotten permission. Um, yeah, if you go on a show, and I think if you're um they put you down as like a collaborator, then you can do that. And Theta, damn, you got an SM7. Hey, Marcus. Yeah, it was my only splurge. I have a really cheap camera. I don't mind that because I don't let the resolution too much. My blemishes and my scars on my face. And yeah, the computer is just basic, but I sprung for the AA Ron. I gotta do a lot more crocheting for to make up for what what you spent on it. I figured the sound was good. Aw, thank you, Joni. You're a sweetie pie. Michelle, I don't even have kids by choice, but even I know better. Babies are pure. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Sorry, I'm just going through the comments. I was in the start for a little while, so I missed a bunch of stuff. So we got um Joni. Did I say hi to you yet, honey? Joni and Joel and Marcus. Thanks for coming in. Oh, here we go. Yes, Tiff, I find his tone and looks so sexy. Both Jake and Mike. Hey, I hear you. Totally. Oh, Joel. word of the day, Joel. 25 years ago, when I first got started in animal rescue, I was involved with an abuse rescue. As it played out, the kids were so abused. Yeah, still haunts me. Animal and human abuse go hand in hand. I agree. Yeah, I would think so, because if you can abuse a child, you can abuse an animal, and vice versa. It's just this heartless, terrible thing. Thank you for everything you do for the fur babies, honey. Oh, Clearwater Chad's popping back in, my buddy. Hey, saying hi, Marcus, Tiff, Sophia. Whenever he comes in, it's like, Chad, 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 Chad. Hi, Joel. Hey, now you're an all star. He's a rock star. Oh, hi, Godfather. See, Chad, you are well loved. Oh, here we go. I'm going live after Marilyn and Glenn's. Where is Glen Falls? Is it in Glens Falls? Because Glens Falls isn't far from me. Seriously. Are you in Glens Falls? You can't be in Glens Falls. Okay. That's the name of a town, but it's probably Glen Falls. Okay. Text me. I'm just curious. Hey, I'd meet you halfway sometime. We're not really that far if we met halfway. He's going live after this. Having issues with my internet. We'll try to join. Oh, I hope you can join. Um, Morning Chat. Is that by Watkins Glen at all? Hmm. Yeah, everybody jump over to Clearwater Chat's channel right after this. Do you have a link, Chat? You can give it to Terry. Michelle R. Child and animal abuse. Aren't those ingredients to make a yes? Just gonna leave that there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And yeah, that and um the I just think of the cruel, merciless dictators and countries that have oppressed thousands. It does take a really hardened, evil person to people. And you know, Dave Miscavige is I think is a really good example of that. So what is today? Tuesday. So last Wednesday, so what, 6 days ago now, we did a stream. Chad, Steve-O, and I did a stream with Jackson Moorhead, and we didn't have a a topic really that we were going to discuss. We were just going to see how it went. And within a few minutes, it was pretty clear what Jackson was on his mind, and what was you know, just came out to talk about. He spent an hour doing such a good job painting a picture of what Dave Miscavige is like, based on his observations and his experiences with him. And I tell you, somebody who is like a expert in narcissism could watch that and just tick off all the boxes, I bet. It's a true okay, I don't see a link set up for Chad's upcoming. Okay, thank you, Terry, for checking. So where'd he go? Maybe he went to set it up. He just kind of drops in. Is like, hey everybody, I'm here. I'm a rock star. And it was like, Chad, 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 Chad. And then he just disappears. Gotta love Chad. He's my bro. He and that's Steve-O. Steve-O and Chado. Oh my god, yeah. Oh, yeah, there was a marriage proposal. If you haven't seen the stream with Jackson, it's, like, over 2 hours. I think it's, like, 2 hours and 45 minutes. But somewhere halfway, he mentions that, he's on the market, and, yeah, he just wants to give some love to the lead. So, a special lady. He got some marriage proposals and everything. Yep. So we were writing his dating profile. He is the sweetest. He really is. Really nice. Oh, Still here, getting my sunscreen. Good boy. Good man. Getting my sunscreen on. Oh, yeah, wear your sunscreen. Am I right? Yes, you're right. Oh, he's Chadster. Yep. Chadster and the Chadettes. Yeah, he's right. You know he did it. Is that how it goes? All right. So we're at whoa. Oh, we're at the 2 hour mark. Okay. So I think to be single. He's so sweet. Yeah, he is. He's definitely very sweet, very eligible. Everybody's saying nice things to each other. I love that. Oh, here it is. You know I did it. You know he's right. Good. All right, guys. So, I have a live stream with Peggy brought tomorrow. If you can tune in, that would be awesome. It's called Growing Up in the Cultiverse, and she has just a wealth of knowledge. Like I said, for anyone who didn't hear, she's a researcher for That's So Fucked Up podcast with Ashley Richards, who has done collaborations with Apostate Alex. She's super funny, awesome. And we will be doing that at 11 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. And we'll have Penny 5A in the chat in the background. Always love to have her and missed her today. Oh, okay. With that is Creepy B5. I am single and ready to mingle. Hell yeah, girl. Yeah. Joel, nice to see you all. Nice to see you, Joel. Be safe, stay well. Catch you all down the road. Love you, Joel. Nice guy. Oh, oh, hey, Kayla. Oh, did you just get here? Good to see you, honey. um, Can't remember if you are in Australia. I could be wrong, but great to see you. And you can catch the replay. And like I just said, tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, we'll be back on talking about some stuff. And yeah, it's serious. Probably trigger warning, but we'll try to be gentle about it and just you know talk about some important things. So I may have to take a break tomorrow. That's okay, honey. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about watching my reply. I'm not going to ask you. I'm not going to quiz you. But so great to see everyone today. It's been a nice morning with you. It's noon now here, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye, guys. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.